Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to a new real life car review. In this episode I'm test driving the all new Hyundai Inster. The Hyundai Inster is Hyundai's new small EV that completes the EV range at the lower end of the spectrum, whereas the Ioniq 9 is the top dog in Hyundai's EV lineup. Now the Inster isn't a complete new development, it's based on the Hyundai Casper, but Hyundai put so much effort in this car that they basically developed a new car. The most important thing that they did, and you probably noticed, is that they extended the platform, so that created 80 centimeters more wheelbase. That gives space to a battery pack and also makes the interior a lot spacier. The interior of this car is simply amazing. Hyundai didn't just retrofit the Casper with a battery pack and an electric motor, because the added weight of the battery pack requires a new setup for the suspension, and they've done an amazing job at that. So it's not just that this car has an amazing and very nice interior, also the ride and handling is very nice. As per usual, I want to start off by having a peek under the hood to see what drives this car. Now, the Hyundai Inster comes with two battery packs. The standard battery pack has a capacity of 42 kilowatt hours. This is the long range version, which only has 7 kilowatt hours of capacity more, namely 49 kilowatt hours. And I will say this, during the test week, it's a fairly warm week, so I have to use the AC in the car, which consumes a little bit of extra electricity, but after charging my range is always 350 kilometers. So those numbers stated in the brochure are very realistic. Now, as what is usual with EVs, and various battery packs come with various power outputs for the electric motors. So the 42 kilowatt hour battery pack comes with 97 horsepower engine with 147 newton meters of torque, top speed of 140 kilometers. And this is the long range version, and then you get 115 horsepower, also 147 newton meters of torque, and a top speed of 150 kilometers. Now in the Casper you do get a 1 liter 3-cylinder engine over here, either turbocharged or naturally aspirated, but getting rid of an internal combustion and installing an electric motor over here doesn't free up as much space as it did in the Toyota Pro Ace that I tested in the last real life car review. There you had a big empty space once the electric motor is installed, but it's not the case in the Inster. It's pretty crowded over here, but it's nice tied up. The 12-volt battery is in the front. All the fluids are very well accessible. Anyway, that's the important thing that we need to know about the battery packs, power output and the ranges. Let's have a peek in the cargo space. The very first time that I wanted to open a trunk lid, I was looking for a button for the release, but it's hidden in this crease over here. So there we have it. Small cargo space, as you might expect, 281 liters. Let me remove the partial shelf. Let's put this aside and show you the trick. It has a sliding rear seat, but not only is it sliding, you can also recline the seat backs. So as it stands, 281 liters of cargo capacity. When I slide one seat forward, I can now fit one standard size shopping crate over here. It's a 50-50 split. Let's do the same on the other side. Now I have a cargo capacity of 351 liters. I can also fold the rear seats completely down, and then I end up with 1059 liters of cargo space, which I think for this class of vehicle is exceptional. This is really smart, and even with the seats fully slided forward, you have plenty of legroom. I can sit decently behind myself, and also the fact that these seats that they recline is a very nice touch. And this is what makes the Inster so great. You can choose between having a usable cargo space and decent passenger comfort in the rear, or you can slide the seats all the way back and give up the cargo space and have amazing seating comfort in the back. Really smart move from Hyundai. And also below here there's a compartment for extra stuff. I have the charge cable normally over here, then I have plenty of cargo space left, and you can store a lot of goodies down here. Very nicely done, very well thought out, I must say. So with that being said, let's have a peek in the interior where a lot of the other magic happens. So let's hop aboard, and the one thing that you'll notice is basically the same what you have in other Hyundai and Kia models too, is that the seats, even in the smaller models, are really good. Now in this case, and let me give you a close up with the handycam, is that you have a sort of a bench seat. So the driver's seat has this extended area over here with two cup holders, and when you slide the passenger seat right next to it, you sort of have a really comfy bench seat, which I think is a nice invention. And also you can fold all the seats flat, so you have a two-person mattress basically, so you can sleep pretty decently in this car. Looking at a well-known Hyundai instrument panel, digital gates cluster, this infotainment screen is also the same. The basic structure of the dashboard isn't different than from the Casper, but they put some different elements in here. More expensive digital gates cluster, and this center section also has a different layout, but the backbones of the dashboard, that's something that they didn't change. Also the steering wheel is the same that we know from the Ioniq models, with the flappy pedals for the regen braking behind the steering wheel, and these four little dots for dots, short beeps, are marked for the letter H. So Hyundai, nice thought. They can change color, for example, when you're charging the car, you can see the state of charge by looking at these four dots, and when you're backing up they turn red. They have several functions, a lot of outlets. USB-A, there's a 12-volt plug over here, we have a USB-C charging outlet, there is a wireless phone charger, and we have a real nice stacked center console in here. There's a compartment where I keep my wallet and where I lose my wallet, by the way. And in this version, all the way down there, not sure if you can see this on camera, is a vehicle to load connector for a 1500 volt 1500 watt 230 volt power outlet. What I also like is the idea of space that the extended roofline gets. It's basically the same idea as in the Suzuki Swift, so the roof extends really far forward, and the angle of the windscreen is quite steep. That does give wind noise on the highway, I must say, which I'll show you in the drive segment. This version also has a sunroof that tilts and it slides open. Let me demonstrate. It doesn't slide open all the way back. This is optional on the top of the range trim level. Anyway, that's the front passenger space. Let's have a quick look in the rear passenger space. It's quite surprising, as you may expect. Before I hop in, I want to point out the difference in size of doors. It's the same as basically with the Mazda CX-80, where the extended wheelbase is hidden in the rear door. It's the same with the Casper, so let's hop in. And as you may expect, ingress and egress is super easy. The door opens to almost a 90-degree angle. Currently I have the driver's seat set in my driving position, and I really can put my legs forward. These are basic rear seats, but the seating comfort as in the front is great. Now let me slide the seat completely forward. So this is the most forward position, and then I have to pull my knees up a little bit, but the seating comfort isn't bad as it is. And let me put it completely backward and use the reclining function. You can recline all the way back down here in the rear. So yeah, this is, in terms of space, it's really surprising. So let me put the seat upright so you can see me. But yeah, look at the legroom. That's simply amazing. There aren't many creature comforts, so we don't have a USB-C outlet, not that I see, so you can charge your phone in the back. We do have these little knobs where you can put, I think, some bags on here, and also you have these little panels. This is what they look like standard in this trim level. You have the transparent ones in the front. This is what they look standard. You can change them out. Let's do the window test. If I was sitting here as a child, I would have a great view towards the outside. So yeah, this is real good. This is the most surprising part. You do have to transport a couple of adults on the rear seat. They can be incredibly tall. Only thing is that the headroom is a little bit limited, but that has something to do with the sunroof that's in this car. The versions without sunroof do offer more headroom, but all in all, this is real nice, and I think it's a good thing that they chose for a 50-50 split of the rear seat. Very well done, Hyundai. And now let us go for a ride. So also, as I pointed out in the interior segment, when you get in this car, for instance, in the showroom, sit down, you'll notice that the seating position and the seating comfort is great. It's a real nice, comfortable car. That combined with the fairly thick steering wheel that we know from the Ioniq model, give the impression that this is a real large car. A lot of interior space, especially in height. In width, it's quite narrow. If you're sitting in front here with two big dudes, you're sitting shoulder to shoulder. But other than that, it's a real nice and comfy interior. When you start driving, you will also immediately notice that this car is quite comfortable. I tend to compare it with my own Hyundai, which is an i10 of the previous generation. But the difference between my i10 and this Inster is much larger than I expected. So it has a much larger wheelbase in comparison with a Casper, and also a lot of added weight. But Hyundai did an amazing job to let it work for the Inster. It's a real comfortable car. It's suspension comfort. For instance, we have a little speed bump over here, but a lot of suspension travel, the setup of the springs and the shocks. It's better than I expected, and this is a real nice car to drive. So on these little back roads, on these country lanes, it's very easy to maneuver. Suspension is very quiet, suspension comfort, the spring comfort is amazing, much better than I expected. And if you would have blindfolded me, put me on the passenger seat and told me that we were driving an Ioniq 5, I would have believed you. And also I'm merging in here, and I have to floor it, because there was a very little space to merge here. And that's the benefit of having an electric motor in the car like this. 147 Newton meters of torque may not seem as much, but it's so easy to accelerate in this car. It's a real nice drivetrain calibration, I will say. Said you can floor it, but it's not an immediate response that you throw yourself back in the seat. A lot of torque, pulls nice, it's quick when it has to, but it's not overwhelming. So the car does have a drive mode selector. It always starts off in a normal drive mode, and when you put it in sport mode, you don't get extra torque, but the throttle response, the response on the accelerator is a bit more aggressive. Now, speaking of pedals, my biggest complaint, and that's the big negative for me about this car, is that I still cannot adjust the regen braking while I'm using the brake pedal. So when I use the brake pedal to add a little bit extra braking force, I want to toggle back the regen braking. I cannot do that. It gives a warning that these flappy pedals aren't available. So what oftentimes happens, now I'm approaching a roundabout, use regen braking, I need a little bit more, I flipped a little bit extra, now I'm using the foot brake, now I have the speed that I want, and I release the foot brake, but it's still in a too high of regen braking setting. So what I normally do, I would toggle back the regen braking, but that's impossible to do when you're using the foot brake, and that's something that Kia and Hyundai really must change for their EVs. In every other EV it's possible to change the regen braking while using the brake pedal, and not in Hyundai and Kia EVs. And that's something, I said, I really want them to change that. But that is my biggest complaint about this car. Now, one thing that I didn't mention in the interior segment is how much technology is actually packed into this car. All the tech that's available in the larger Ioniq models is also available in this Inster. Mind you, it comes in a certain tech package, so it's not standard equipment on all Insters, but in this top trim level it comes as standard. So for instance, we have the blind spot cameras, so when you put on the indicator it shows the view along the side of the car in the instrument cluster. Also, it has a very nice round view monitor, so when you're parking, maneuvering, you have a nice helicopter or bird's eye view from the car, and that you can scroll the car around. It's really nice to have that in this car. And when you listen closely, you'll hear a lot of beeps. There was one. So that's the speed sign recognition system, or the traffic sign recognition system. So I'm driving on the main road where the maximum speed is 80 kilometers an hour. But there is a parallel road next to this one for the people that live along these roads, mostly farms. that road the maximum speed is 60 kilometers an hour, but the camera reads the 60 kilometer an hour sign and now thinks that it's also the maximum speed on the road that I'm driving. So I constantly have a flashing traffic sign in the gates cluster. That's something that tells you that these systems aren't as perfect as they should be. I have a nice undulating concrete road over here. This is where the suspension of the Inster really excels. Some nice interesting curves, nice road for motorcycles, I would say. I drive this a lot with my own motorcycle. Great road. Also in this car, which is intended as an entry-level EV from Hyundai, there's a lot of fun to be had, and that's one of the benefits of having some extra weight, good for the comfort, but also the low center of gravity makes that it handles real well, carrying a lot of speed into this corner, and it goes to it just effortlessly. You can hear the tires drop a little bit. If I was going a little bit faster, they would start to squeal, but so much control, so much stability in this suspension. That's one of the things that amazed me a lot about this car. I had seen the interior, the flexibility. I think this is a great interior. The only thing that you have to keep in mind when you choose for this light car interior, when you are a little bit dirty, just like I worked on my car last week, my hands were dirty, had a little bit of dirt on my trousers. I got into the car and I thought, that's not such a good idea, because it leaves marks instantly and it's pretty hard to keep clean. So if it was my personal car, I would opt for the darker interior colors. The last thing that I want to talk about is the range and the energy consumption. As I said in the under the hood segment, the range that I get is exactly what the brochure states. With a 49 kilowatt hour battery, that's 350 kilometers. And what I find mostly noticeable that the range does not collapse when you start doing highway driving. So when I picked up the car, I set off with the promised 350 kilometer range. Within 1 minute I was on the highway, and then it's 160 kilometers of highway driving, and I expected the range to sink down quite substantially when I was driving on the highway. That happened with me in the Toyota Pro Ace, but it's not the case in the Inster. Every time I get my 350 kilometers, sometimes slightly less, but never less than 345 kilometers. So those are all my talking points for the drive segment. So let's head out to the middle of nowhere where I'll give my final thoughts. See you in a second. There is one thing that I didn't mention in this test so far, and that's the charging capabilities, the charging rate. The Hyundai Inster is capable of fast charging up to 350 kilowatt, but keep in mind, and this is my own experience, when I'm fast charging an EV and other cars show up at the charging station, the maximum charging power significantly drops, and in this case mostly under 300 kilowatts. What's important to keep in mind is how long it takes to fast charge at your wall outlet at home or on a public charger. In my case, I have to charge the car on an 11 kilowatt AC public charger, and when the battery is completely depleted, it takes up to almost 7 hours to fully charge the battery, so you can fully charge the car overnight. But the car has great energy efficiency, and the 350 kilometers of range that's stated in the brochure is really there in reality. And I'm willing to bet that if you go hypermiling this car, you can squeeze out even more than that, maybe even up to 370 kilometers of range, but that's not so much fun to do, and it's also not so much fun for other road users. Anyway, this is a 30,000 euro car. It's a steep price for a car of this size when you look at the exterior dimensions, but as we have seen in the cargo space and the interior space, it's super flexible. It's not a cramped car as an Hyundai i10 maybe is, and I'm speaking as an owner of an i10. This is a much more practical, much more flexible car. I can easily fit 2 standard-size shopping crates in the cargo space, which I think is a big win over an i10. And the adjustability and flexibility of the rear seats, especially that they recline, is super nice to have. And we also have to to keep in mind that 30,000 euros buys you a car in the Netherlands with a lot of taxes, and it's a fully trimmed version of cars. It's available over here from just over 24,000 euros. There's one thing that you have to keep in mind, and that is to always get a version with the heat pump. It's really worth the extra cost, and it will pay for itself within a year and a half, because you can squeeze so much more range out of it, especially in the colder time of year. This light interior is really nice to have, but for a guy like me that likes to work on cars, this isn't super practical. I would have stained this interior within the first month with stains that I cannot get out. That's some other thing that you have to keep in consideration. So I would recommend to get mid-range trim level with the optional heat pump and a darker interior. But that's your choice. But what surprised me the most is the way this car rides and handles. It's very mature, and I said if you would have blindfolded me, I would have guessed that I was driving in some larger Ioniq model. That's the biggest takeaway for this real life car review. Anyway, I hope you liked following me along. If you did, let me know by giving me a like, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, and if you want to help support the channel, you can do so by buying me a coffee. I will leave the link for that in the description box. For now, I would like to thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye!